Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Kyle Clementino. I am the project manager for customer experience and innovation with the transit division for the city of Hamilton. Thank you for joining us here today for our annual transit accessibility public event. This event is held as part of our commitment to the Accessibility of Ontarians with Disabilities Act, or our AODA, and serves as an opportunity for us to not only share our updates, but to hear your valuable feedback and questions. We want to ensure that public transit in Hamilton is accessible to all members of our community, and your input plays a critical role in shaping our services. For those unable to join us today, this event is being live streamed on the City of Hamilton's YouTube channel, where it will remain for future viewing. For anyone needing additional support, we have closed captionings available on the screen, so please feel free at any time to move on up over here. I'd like to begin with our land acknowledgement. The City of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase of 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the City of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island or North America, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about this rich history of this land so that we can do better to understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. I'd like to take a moment to thank our interpreters, Roman and Carrie, and our captioner from Canadian Hearing Services, who's doing our live captioning here. We would also like to do our best to maintain a nice pace that supports interpretation, captioning, and welcomes feedback from our interpreters if we need to slow down. A special thanks to Cable 14 for assisting us here today in our live stream that's being brought to you today. Our event will begin with members from our panel highlighting accessibility improvements for upcoming changes. Following that, we will open up the floor for your questions. Please note that if you ask a question during the live stream, it will be recorded and saved on our YouTube channel. If you prefer to ask your question privately, we will end the live stream around 7 o'clock. At that point, you can ask your questions privately then. Lastly, I would also like to remind everybody that the R-Zone Respectful Environments policy promotes safe, positive environments and interactions for all residents, visitors to Hamilton, and city staff and facilities in our space. Our zone sets a clear expectation for appropriate behavior, reinforces the commitment of our city in Hamilton, fostering community and work environments. The main goal is to respect yourself, respect others, and have responsibility for your actions. Now let me introduce you to our panel. We're going to have Nancy Purser, our Director of Transit, Owen Quinn, our Project Manager for Transit Customer Loyalty, James Kemp, the Chair of the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities here in the City of Hamilton, Mark Williams, Manager of Transit Operations, Jeff Poljanski, Manager of Fleet Maintenance, Kasia, Klepa, Supervisor of Transit Support Services, Jason VanderHeide, Manager of Scheduling and Infrastructure, Nick Chaloux, Manager of Transit Strategy and Planning, Michelle Martin, Manager of Accessible Transportation Services, and Ali Sabourin, Manager of Customer Experience and Innovation. We are also joined today by Liz Spolador, DART's Operation Manager, to assist in answering questions about DART's service during the question and answer period. Before we start today's presentation, I'd like to hand things over to Nancy Purser, Director of Transit, to provide our opening remarks.
Thanks, Kyle. Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be here tonight for our annual accessibility event. As the acting director of transit, I take great pride in the service that we put on the road each and every day. And I do acknowledge that, we have room to improve, and we can continuously improve accessibility and access for all. We have started a new tradition last year, and it's going to continue in the future. But as Kyle noted, all of the HSR management team is here to talk about improvements that are going to be happening and things that we do every day to ensure that our system is accessible for all Hamiltonians. I want to thank you for sharing your time with us this evening. And without further ado, we'll get into the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Next, we're going to take a closer look at how both HSR and Accessible Transportation Services are meeting the requirements of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, or AODA, as it relates to public transit. To guide us through this important topic, I would like to introduce you to Owen Quinn, Project Manager of Accessible Transportation Services.
Thank you, Kyle. Hello, my name is Owen Quinn. I'm a Project Manager with Accessible Transportation Services. I'm going to provide you with an overview of how the HSR and Accessible Transportation Services is meeting the AODA Integrated Accessibility Standards Regulation as a transit provider. The requirement and purpose of meeting. The Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, known as the AODA, requires conventional transportation service providers, such as the HSR and the City of Hamilton, to hold one public meeting annually. Conventional HSR and Specialized Transportation Services, also known as Accessible Transportation Services, which is shortened as ATS and DARTS Transit, are to be addressed in the city's accessibility plan, which identifies, removes, and prevents barriers for persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities have an opportunity to review and provide feedback on the accessibility of services. The meeting will include an update from transit staff on accessibility achievements to date and also AODA compliance. In terms of the conventional fixed route transit, the HSR has accessible buses, 100% of the fleet, and also accessible bus shelters. The accessibility plan, AODA compliance for conventional transit, HSR is compliant in the following areas. Fares. Fares for persons with disabilities must be the same or less than fares for persons without disabilities. Also, no fare is to be charged for a support person. Pre-boarding announcements. Automated electronic pre-boarding announcements of the route, direction, and next major stop. On-board announcements. There must be automated verbal announcements and electronic visual display of all destination points or stops while a vehicle is en route. General responsibilities. This relates to deployment of lifting devices and ramps on vehicles, also adequate time to safely board and deboard vehicles. Courtesy seating. There's clearly marked priority and courtesy seating on HSR vehicles for persons with disabilities. Allocated mobility aid spaces. There must be a minimum of 2 spaces per vehicle to accommodate wheelchairs or scooters. Accessibility plans for conventional transit. There must be a process for managing and taking action on customer feedback. Also, the annual public meeting on accessibility. And in addition, procedures to deal with accessibility equipment failures. Bus stop and shelter design. HSR consults with the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities, known as ACPD, regarding accessible bus stop shelter criteria, as well as having an identified action plan for all accessible bus stops and shelters. With respect to specialized transit, this is the Accessible Transportation Services with the City of Hamilton. Eligibility and registration for service is completed by ATS. The trips are delivered by DARTS Transit, and the DARTS fleet includes accessible vehicles with ramps as well as non-accessible vehicles. In terms of the accessibility plan, AODA compliance for specialized transit, ATS, and DARTS, There's several areas where the ATS and DARTs are compliant. Categories of eligibility is one of them. There are 3 categories of eligibility. Unconditional, which is eligibility for all trips. Temporary, and conditional. Conditional relates to seasonal eligibility, where a person would have trips during the winter months only. Fare parity. Fare parity between conventional and specialized transit. That is the same fare structure for HSR and DARTs. Fares. No fares to be charged for a support person as well. In terms of hours and service, there must be the same hours and days of service for DARTs as HSR. Booking. In terms of trip booking, same-day service must be provided to the extent it is available. And also there must be accessible methods for reservations. For example, DARTs do have a website where clients can book trips. Coordinated service. This relates to connections between specialized transportation services in adjacent municipalities, but it's only required where there's a continuous urban area. For example, DARTs has connections with the City of Burlington Specialized Transit. Visitors. Visitors are eligible for DARTs if they are registered for service in their home jurisdiction. If not, they can also apply for ATS services, but they must meet the eligibility requirements. Accessibility plans for specialized transit. There must be a process for estimating demand and reducing wait times for service. And also, there must be procedures to deal with accessibility equipment failures. In terms of comments and feedback, HSR is continuing to accept comments, questions, and feedback until October 23rd. These can be submitted through various channels. In person, comment cards are available at the HSR Customer Service Center at 36 Hunter Street East, which is the Hamilton GO station. Also at any municipal service center. Through email, comments can be sent to ats@hamilton.ca. People could also phone in their comments or concerns. The phone number is 905-529-1212. We also accept faxes. The fax number for comments is 905-679-7305. And the last channel for submitting comments would be through mail. And that would be to Accessible Transportation Services, care of 71 Main Street West, Hamilton, Ontario, postal code L8P4Y5. In terms of next steps, if you require a copy of this presentation in an alternative format, such as print or braille, please contact ATS Customer Service. HSR staff will review all the comments received for consideration and action. The next transit accessibility public meeting will be held next year in 2026. So I'd like to thank you for listening to this presentation and for providing any comments or feedback.
Thank you, Owen, for that overview on how HSR and ATS are meeting our AODA standards. Next, we will hear from James Kemp, Chair of the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities. James will share the committee's insights and perspectives on how we can continue to improve accessibility and ensure that transit services meet the needs of persons with disabilities. Welcome, James.
Everybody. Put on my reading glasses here because you know. Hello, my name is James Kemp, and I am the current chair of the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities for the City of Hamilton, also referred to as the ACPD. And I have to remember to be slow here, my apologies. We are a subcommittee of council that is tasked with advising on all matters pertaining to accessibility. We do our best to ensure the city is in compliance with Ontario's with Disabilities Act, ODA, and the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, AODA. but we consider them the bare minimum of accessibility standards. We recommend surpassing existing accessibility requirements wherever possible in order to make this city the blessed place to live, work, play, raise a child, and grow old in it. We have several working groups that manage specific accessibility issues. The main four are the Housing Working Group, the Built Environment Working Group, Outreach Working Group, and Transportation Working Group. While housing is not pertinent to this discussion, the other three are involved in transit in some way. Built Environment is responsible for the infrastructure of transit, for example, light rail transit design, bus stops, bus shelters, bike lanes, and snow removal. Outreach is responsible for networking and educating the public. We just held our 4th annual Accessibility Fair and 2nd annual awards ceremony last month, and the HSR and DARTS had an activity station on site. The most important working group for this discussion is transportation. TWG is responsible for reviewing the HSR, ATS, DARTS, Accessible Taxis Incentive Program, taxi scripts, e-scooters, and more. Pretty much anything to do with actually traveling in the city of Hamilton. We meet with city staff regularly to discuss issues of concern and discuss possible solutions. I must tell you that our committee has significant reservations about the current state of accessible transportation in the city of Hamilton. Accessibility issues and concern raised by us continue to be dismissed, and our ability to travel has been affected by the lack of understanding, empathy, and accommodation. With regards to the HSR, we are not happy with the front door only policy, making it difficult or impossible for some mobility devices to navigate front door entry, the current design of the 30-foot, 40-foot, and 60-foot buses, the 4 Presto fare box placement, or the availability of vendors to assist with loading the cards. We are not happy with driver training, grab bar availability, call strip placement, personal mobility device positioning, or enunciator reliability. With regards to DARTS and ATS, we are not happy with the lack of on-demand options, the requirement to plan your life a week in advance, the constant struggle to schedule rides, the travel times of the shared ride system, or the uncertainty of being able to make appointments. Taxi scripts are not as helpful as they once were due to the higher cost of taxis or the lack of accessible taxi options. We currently have no reliable, accessible, on-demand travel option, which is a city's duty to provide. The removal of the 2 temporary accessible fare programs has also caused significant harm to members of our community, and we need to hear how the current Fare Assist program is not serving your needs. I have not come here to simply raise awareness about the current state of accessible transit, but to ask for your help. We need to hear from you about your experiences using all forms of transit. Only by understanding everyone's struggles can we work to find solutions and make accessible transit truly accessible to all. Data and facts can be interpreted to fit the needs of the moment, but stories stay with us. I know how unfulfilling it can be to file a complaint with the HSR, ATS with little resolution beyond a statement of apology, and I share your frustration. We need to hear from citizens of their struggles with transit today and suggest that if you do not want to send it to the HSR or ATS, please either relay it through your local counselor to our committee through the city clerk's office at clerks@hamilton.ca or through our website at info@hamiltonacpd.ca. You can also file an accessibility complaint through the city at aoda@hamilton.ca. Wheelchair scooter breakdown rescue was raised at the 2024 ATS presentation, and I want to say that we are still working on this issue. If your mobility device breaks down and you are unable to get it home through any other means, please contact the Hamilton Police non-emergency line. Their transport vehicles are accessible and are currently the only option we have in this situation. Together, we can work to improve the accessible transportation options available in the city of Hamilton. Thank you.
Thank you, James, for sharing those important perspectives and the role that ACPD has in guiding our accessibility improvements. Now we'll shift our focus to the operational side of things. Mark Williams, Manager of Transit Operations, will walk us through the key measures and training practices in place for HSR operators to ensure that accessibility standards are met on a daily basis.
Good evening. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm happy to be back to speak at this event and share some insight into HSR operations. HSR operations is responsible for new bus operators, refresher training of existing operators, and the supervision of in-service operators. During both types of training activities, our team ensures that while boarding customers using personal mobility devices, operators are to secure the bus using an emergency brake function, lower the ramp, allow customers to navigate into the personal mobility device location, and get their devices set up. Once set up, the operators secure the device through the frame of the device, not around any movable parts or across any body parts. We encourage the operator to confirm with the customer before we secure them if there is a preferred way, and we will do our best to accommodate preferences. If it's not across the body or attached to removable parts, when the customer is secured, the operator is encouraged to ask which stop they want. Not that it's necessary, as they can use the request stop bell, but sometimes it helps, so the operator can be prepared when approaching stop. We coach the importance of our compliance obligations under the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. The annunciator must be tested during their pre-trip circle check to ensure it is working. If during their day it stops working, operators are to call the maintenance division and request a change off of that bus. While waiting for the change off a new bus, they are to continue in service and verbally announce stops along the way. You're currently in the process of installing a new computer-aided dispatch and automatic vehicle locator, CAD-AVL, system into our buses. With the introduction of our new CAD-AVL system, we will be able to provide a list of upcoming stops to the operator to assist in announcements. The stop annunciator and schedule data is housed within the bus and will ensure continuity for stop calling in the event that a disconnection from the local central system occurs. When extra buses are put into service to cover an issue with our current system, does not provide the ability to have the annunciator functioning. Our new CAD-AVL, we will be able to add additional buses to routes and maintain compliance under the AODA for calling the stops. In January of 2025, HSR operations implemented General Transit Feed Specification, or what we call GTFS notifications. This allows operations to communicate with our customers in real time when a route is impacted and requires a change to its normal course. The new information is shared to third-party applications through Google and provides information about the disruption. Our new CAD-AVL system is likely to provide even more enhancements to this great initiative. When our operators approach bus stops, they are trained to ensure the location is safe to alight, even in poor weather conditions, and are required to report any deficiencies observed with the stop area to our control room. As we continue our front boarding to support our Fare Assist program, we have and continue to offer training and familiarization events for our customers to learn and become comfortable with the new way of boarding our buses. Members of our training staff are always there to assist our customers in becoming comfortable with the new operation. Our operators are ready to support customers who require additional assistance with tapping their Presto cards and offering help to navigate their way through the front doors. And always acknowledge the use of the rear doors as requested. Thank you all for the opportunity to share information about our operations at HSR.
Thank you, Mark, for the overview of the critical training and operational practices that help ensure accessibility on our buses. It's great to hear that HSR operators are trained to prioritize safety and customer service for all passengers. Next, we'll hear from Jeff Poljanski, Manager of Fleet Maintenance. Jeff will provide us with an update on the ongoing fleet improvements that support accessibility for all transit users. Jeff, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Poljanski, and I'm one of the managers for Transit Fleet Maintenance, HSR. The maintenance department is responsible for the purchasing, maintenance, and repair of all transit vehicles, from the cars and trucks that we use to support staff to our 30-foot, 40-foot, and 60-foot buses. HSR's fleet started becoming accessible back in 1996 with our first low-floor buses being purchased. In 2008, our fleet became 100% low-floor accessible with the retirement of our last high-floor bus. Along this journey, HSR has adapted to new technologies and products as they have become available, with the focus on delivering an excellent rider experience for everyone. 2025 has been an exciting year as our maintenance team has worked on finalizing corrective measures for our annunciator and destination sign systems, exploring new market products such as seating and flooring, to preparations and testing of a new computer-aided destination and automatic vehicle location system, CAT AVL. Other key focus areas for our department this year were staff hiring and improvements to our standard operating procedures, because we are preparing for the 2026 big operational move where we will be operating out of 2 facilities. This is an important initiative because as HSR grows, we want to maintain consistent practices and standards which will result in clean, safe, and reliable vehicles for riders no matter which location they depart from. As we continue to replace our end-of-life buses with new ones, we are always scanning the industry to see what's available and what might be a good fit for both the public and HSR operations. This year, we have begun to order new interior seating style which improves on our durability, comfort, and floor space compared to past configurations. Our team will also be exploring the potential pilot for an automated personal mobility device securement station which allows the rider to secure themselves independently via an automated arm that adjusts to the device size. I hope you enjoyed hearing about some of the ongoing and upcoming projects that HSR Fleet Maintenance is working on. Thank you for your time today and allowing me to speak at this event.
Thank you, Jeff. It's encouraging to see how HSR continues to evolve to meet the needs of our passengers. Next, we'll hear from Kasia, Klepa, Supervisor of Transit Support Services. Kasia will discuss our fare policies and provide information on Fare Assist program. Kasia.
Good evening. I'm here to speak to you about our fare policies. As mentioned earlier, under AODA Transportation Standard, full fare parity was introduced in 2013, allowing DARTS users to access the same fare concessions offered on HSR. Fare parity means that the transit fare charges for our accessible transportation services are the same as those charged on HSR, and that Presto users have the same functionality on DARTS as they would on HSR. When using your Presto card, customers pay the lowest possible fare and can travel seamlessly between the services, including on other transit agencies. This seamless travel means you will only pay one fare to complete your journey. For example, if you were to board DARTS or HSR vehicle and make your way to the Hamilton GO station and then board the GO bus, your GO fare will be reduced by the fare you already paid on DARTS or the HSR. The reverse trip will also work in the similar way. When boarding GO to travel back into Hamilton and then transferring to DARTS or HSR, your tap on those vehicles will be free. Using your Presto card also allows you to seamlessly transfer to Burlington Transit at no additional cost within the 2-hour transfer window. Using a Presto card offers convenience and ensures the lowest possible fare each time you use transit. Cards can be loaded in person throughout the city at 21 Shoppers Drug Marts, 8 Fortinos, 4 municipal service centers, and the HSR Customer Service Office at Hamilton GO. In addition, Presto can be loaded from the comfort of your home via the app or website and offers the added convenience of setting the auto load that is one and done, so you never find yourself needing to add funds or passes in the future, and your card will also always be ready when you need to travel. I also want to touch on our Fare Assist pilot program, which was introduced in January 2024. Transit introduced the Fare Assist program as a pilot for both DARTS and HSR. This means-tested program is based on financial need only, and there's no other required qualifiers. This program allows anyone who has a household income at or below the low-income measure to qualify for a 30% discount of regular fares. It will also include all members of the household and entitle them to take advantage of the discounted fare as well. For information on the application process or to get started, please visit www.specialsupportsbenefits.hamilton.ca. Once your application is approved and your Presto card is set up, the 30% discount is automatically applied when you pay your fare. To date, more than 14,000 applications has been processed for the Fare Assist program, and those passengers are saving money on each trip that they take while using DARTS or the HSR. The 30% discount is offered on a single ride fare while using your Presto card. As an example, the current regular adult fare is $2.85, which means the reduced rate is $1.99. Having the discount applied to single fares allow customer to pay as they go instead of paying for all the transit needs upfront with a monthly pass. Additionally, after you have paid for 11 trips in a single week, Monday to Sunday, all additional trips are free. All other AODA regulations remain in effect even for the Fare Assist program. For example, anyone who has been approved to travel with a support person is still able to do so with their HSR support ID card. When you show your card on the HSR, the support person traveling with you on your trip is not required to pay a fare. However, you as the customer still required to pay a fare. The Fare Assist program continues to run as a pilot program until June 30th, 2026. If you think you're eligible, we encourage you to apply and start saving on your transit costs today. If you currently do not have a Presto card, they can be purchased for a $4 at any Shoppers Drug Mart or Fortino's location. They are also available at HSR Customer Office located at 3600 Street East, City Hall, and select municipal service centers, Dundas, Ancaster, and Stony Creek. You can even get a free digital Presto card if you are using the Presto app on your smartphone. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasia, for the detailed explanation of our fare policies and Fare Assist program. It is wonderful to see that we're working to make transit more affordable and accessible for everyone. Next, we'll hear from Jason VanderHeide, Manager of Transit Scheduling and Infrastructure. Welcome, Jason.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to our event this year and having me back as a speaker again. If you are new to this event, welcome, and if you are returning, it's very nice to see you again. I'm Jason VanderHeide, Manager of Transit Scheduling and Infrastructure. My team develops and implements the bus schedules and takes care of our on-street infrastructure assets, including bus stops and bus shelters. As I did last year, I'm going to start off with some stats about the current state of our bus stop inventory. We have a total of 2,369 bus stops, which include stops along routes in Hamilton, at terminals, and for our routes that are operating in Burlington. 1,573 of these stops are considered accessible and meet AODA design standards. 796 are not considered to be accessible, as they may be in rural areas, in industrial or business parks, in old areas of the city where they share limited space on the sidewalk, or they are ones that have yet to be upgraded. Each year, we continue to make more stops accessible through our bus network, and we do this in a few different ways. The first way is through our annual landing pad program. Our 2024 landing pad program, which was delayed due to the cyber incident last year, is back on track in 2025 and includes upgrading 26 stops throughout various parts of the city. This construction of these landing pads is expected to be completed later this year. Another way we do this is through the rehabilitation of existing terminals or the building of new terminals, ensuring that AODA standards for accessibility are being met in their design and construction. The Meadowlands Terminal was rehabilitated this summer to improve capacity and functionality, which will allow buses to better align to the curbing with all of their doors while servicing the stops. Other ways we do this are through active transportation and capital construction projects. We work with our colleagues in active transportation and civil engineering to provide scope into their projects to ensure that the bus stops remain accessible or are improved during their design and construction. As an example of this, the newly constructed multi-use paths and sidewalks that were completed this year along Stone Church Road. These projects resulted in a few upgraded accessible bus stops and the provision for pedestrian connections between bus stops that previously had been standalone bus pads with no accessibility. Throughout the year, staff inspect stop locations to identify deficiencies, including those that can inhibit accessibility. These can include hazards that develop over time, or they can pop up after the completion of new projects. Staff will revisit bus stops within project zones after construction is completed to ensure that the new conditions aren't presenting accessibility challenges based on how the work was completed. This could include benches or other amenities causing obstructions to accessibility along new connected sidewalks or paths, and in these cases, the amenities will be moved or removed so that they're not to block the clear pathways. Lastly, annually staff review the lighting conditions at bus stops, and where we find that lighting is deficient, we request that it be repaired, for lighting to be added, or in cases where lighting cannot be added at all, we look for new solutions to illuminate the bus area. This year, we've installed a few proof of concept light locations at locations lacking lighting to test the viability of solar-powered lighting in these circumstances. While we test these units throughout the year to determine if they work or if there are modifications required before determining whether we expand upon this solution in other locations in the city. Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming to this year's event.
Thank you, Jason, for that thorough overview of our bus stop accessibility and the plans to improve them. Now, Nick Chaloux, Manager of Transit Strategy and Planning, will share insights into the upcoming changes in our service and how we're planning the future growth and implement improvements of our transit network. Please join me in welcoming Nick to the podium.
Hello, folks. Thank you for having me again. I represent Transit Strategic Planning, our newest section with transit, though I think this will be the last year I get to say that. Our team creates our annual service plans, what we're doing with service for the next year, growth plans like HSR Next. We represent transit on Hamilton's regional projects like the Light Rail Transit Project, and we are delivering the infrastructure needed for us to grow with things like the new garage on Burge Avenue, a new terminal at Lime Ridge, and new hubs through HSR Next. This year, we implemented the last year of our growth strategy, the 10-year local transit strategy. This was a plan that ran from about 2015 to 2025 and significantly increased service across Hamilton, restoring service after a long time of cuts. With our fall 2025 service, all but one route and 99% of our customer activity is now on service that meets our service standards through that strategy. We've added weekend and evening service across Hamilton in the last few years. This year, the increases in central Hamilton and Dundas have made it easier for folks to get to what matters, even outside of peak travel times. In 2025, we've added new tools that are helping us understand who we affect with our service changes and focus our changes to drive equity. Building on a regional travel survey, we've built a tool that estimates who is using our buses, and we're incorporating this tool in how we plan and deliver service changes going forward. For example, this fall, our service changes took place on routes that have higher than average portions of car-free households, lower-income households, seniors, and recent arrivals. The other big news for us this year is the passing of HSR Next, Transit's new growth plan. It was approved by Council this September and builds on the last decade of investment through the 10-year local transit strategy to deliver a new network built around the light rail transit system, provide direct travel between new hubs across the city, and help support strong growth plan for Hamilton in the next 30 years. We shared last year how this project is going to improve access for Hamiltonians. On average, people will be able to reach 12% more jobs on weekdays as a result of the service increases, and that's the average. In places where service is underserved right now, in a lot of the corners of Hamilton, the change is much more significant. I'm excited for the growth of our MyRide service in Waterdown, particularly as we look to piloting new programs that help provide choice for spontaneous, accessible transit across Hamilton. We're also using those new tools to understand how these changes going forward will change who can access what in Hamilton. We know through HSR Next that lower income households will continue to have the highest levels of transit access across the city. We also know that recent arrivals, working age adults, and middle income Hamiltonians all see higher than average increases with this plan. We also see strong increases projected for youth, seniors, and students. Looking ahead to 2026, you can look forward to the start of our Lime Ridge Terminal reconstruction. This was planned for 2025, but as you may know, the mall was sold to a new owner, and we are planning to start that in 2026. We are also awaiting the opening of our new garage, as Jeff mentioned earlier, and are very excited for new capacity to drive service increases. We will also be delivering our first year of HSR Next. Through this, we're launching our new annual service plan process to make sure that we're hearing from the community, your ideas, your suggestions on the changes we're bringing forward, and we're excited for the opportunity to attend committees like the ACPD in bringing those changes forward. With all of this coming ahead, we'll be working with our customer experience and innovation team to make sure that we're out in the community listening to you, hearing from you. For next year, you'll see us all across Hamilton, particularly in Ancaster, along the Rymel, Stone Church, Wilson, in Upper Confederation corridors, and of course, online. We're excited to take on this change with you across Hamilton, and while we know there's a lot more work to keep making transit more accessible, we're excited for what is to come. We'll keep building the tools and insights to understand our ridership and build a more equitable, accessible, and effective service. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Now we're going to shift our focus to accessible transport services. I'd like to introduce Michelle Martin, manager of ATS, who will speak about how we will provide specialized transit services and continue the support of our customers. Michelle?
Thanks, Kyle, and thank you, and hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'll begin as usual with a quick overview of accessible transportation services, so everyone is aware of the services and how eligible persons can access them. Accessible transportation services, or ATS for short, are available to persons who, due to physical or functional limitations, are unable to use fixed route or HSR public transit. Based on information obtained through the ATS application process, ATS determines eligibility and registers passengers for door-to-door shared ride service provided by our contractor, DARTS, and for TaxiScript. ATS also provides ongoing customer care. We contract to a vendor, DARTS, to provide our door-to-door shared ride service. DARTS provides reservations, dispatch, and on-street service. ATS eligibility for service includes all disabilities that may prevent the use of the HSR, not only physical disabilities. If someone wishes to apply for accessible transportation services, it is important to use the most up-to-date version of the form, which you can find on the City of Hamilton website. If you are having trouble accessing the form, please call ATS at 905-529-1212, and a customer service representative can either email you the link or mail you a hard copy. The application form has 2 parts, one for the applicant to complete and a second part that must be completed by a regulated health professional. The TaxiScript program provides a 40% discount on local taxi trips through the purchase of booklets of TaxiScripts. The booklets are worth $40, but eligible persons only pay $24 per booklet, and are allowed to purchase up to 3 booklets per month. And the TaxiScript program is available to residents of Hamilton. DARTS functions as a shared ride transit service, which means that passengers are not always the only person on board, and, just like planning a conventional transit trip, need to allow adequate time to reach their destination, as they may be on board for up to 1 hour. DARTs may arrive between 15 minutes before or 15 minutes after the pickup time requested, which is your negotiated pickup time. Drivers cannot wait more than 5 minutes for passengers to be ready to leave due to the other trips that must also be delivered. DARTs drivers assist passengers from door to door, but they do not provide any onboard care. For example, they do not monitor or look after medication or medical equipment that must travel with a person, and they do not assist passengers beyond the accessible entrance of their destination. For example, DARTs drivers do not unlock people's front doors for them or enter the home to help people take off their coat or bring them further than their own doorstep. And so a support person may be required for further assistance. One support person may travel on DARTs vehicles for free with a registered passenger. Medical certification for a support person must be registered in advance with ATS, and the support person must be capable of meeting the needs of the individual during travel and or at their destination. Passengers who register as requiring a support person at all times must be accompanied for all trips and may not travel alone on DARTs vehicles. If there is a safety risk to a passenger being left alone at their destination, ATS may register the passenger as do not leave unattended, which means the passenger may travel independently on DARTs. However, a capable person must be at every destination to receive the passenger. For more information about ATS and DARTs, please pick up a user guide. We have some here. If we run out, please call ATS customer service at 905-529-1212 or email us at ats@hamilton.ca, and we can mail one out to you or email an electronic copy. Make sure you also pick up a copy of HSR fares information or seek out HSR fares information online, as we usually mail the 2 items out together to all new ATS customers. You can also find information about ATS, including the most up-to-date version of the form, on the City of Hamilton website at www.hamilton.ca/ATS. As with earlier years, in 2025 so far, the biggest drivers of ATS complaints have been in the service performance category. This category includes complaints where the service as performed did not meet expectations, such as complaints about pickup or drop-off time outside of the window of 15 minutes before or 15 minutes after, call return wait time, missed trips, or scheduled time on board. Starting this month, ATS will be moving to enforce an updated late cancellation and trip no-show policy. Late cancellations and no-shows reduce ability to reassign unused trips to others who may need them. We have newly installed software that increases ATS oversight and allows quick removal by staff of any trips incorrectly flagged as a late cancel or a no-show. The policy regarding late cancellations and no-shows was reviewed with the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities before we updated it. Enforcement of the newly updated policy will remind customers of their responsibility to cancel trips in a timely manner, and it will also address patterns of misuse through escalating consequences, beginning with a series of warning letters up to and including a suspension of service. At the same time, the policy includes reasonable cancellation of any policy violations due to unforeseen circumstances, such as illness or weather or appointments that went over time, preventing you from meeting your trip. And we apply, of course, leniency where appropriate and include opportunities for customer education and a process for customers to appeal any violations that they have been informed about. So it's important for us to be taking these measures to improve our ability or the ability of our contractor to reassign unused trips to others who may need them, because we know that though the trip denial rate on the shared ride service as of August 2025 was 2.8% and is within established standards, we do need to do better because those were still denied trips. And while there are many pressures that can contribute to trip denial rates, addressing late cancellations and no-shows will help alleviate these and will help DARTs as they work to improve scheduling efficiency. In late 2024, a summary of our journey mapping project results were presented to the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities, and ATS is in receipt of some early analysis from McMaster University of our customer survey results. Overall, people are reporting satisfaction with services received directly from ATS staff and DART staff, including drivers, but the results also flag some key areas for improvement. And these areas are primarily related to booking and scheduling, with lower rates of satisfaction in items like pickup and drop-off times, trip length, and waitlisted trip requests. We are looking forward to McMaster's full analysis of the survey results, including exploring relationships between demographic groups and their levels of satisfaction using DARTs, TaxiScript, and the HSR. They will also be looking at the themes emerging from comments added at the end of each survey question, where respondents took the opportunity to explain their selections. Now that Council has approved the HSR Next Transit Growth Plan, ATS is looking forward to working with HSR Strategic Planning to explore opportunities to align specialized transit with the expansion of HSR's My Ride On Demand service, and to map out plans for an integrated transit pilot to introduce more flexibility and travel options for ATS customers in the coming years. DART's call center service levels continue to increase gradually. By Q2 of 2025, DART's call center staff were answering about 74% of calls within 5 minutes, compared to 68% overall for 2024. So year to date, also in 2025, we have seen a return to 99% of trips arriving no later than 15 minutes past the end of the pickup window. For those interested in all numbers for DART's key performance indicators and ATS key performance indicators, we report them annually to the Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities and to the Public Works Committee. If you have any questions about these reports, please reach out to ATS. Meanwhile, customers who wish to provide any feedback including letting ATS know what is working well and what is not working well, can reach out to ATS directly. Before I close, I want to let everyone know that DART staff have joined us to support any answers to any questions you may have about DART services when we begin the question and answer period later. And I would like to end by reminding customers again that you can reach out to us at 905-529-1212 or by email at ats@hamilton.ca. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. It's clear that the ATS team is working hard to ensure the specialized transit remains reliable and responsive to the needs of our community. Now we're going to shift our focus to the customer experience. Ali Sabourin, Manager of Customer Experience and Innovation, will share some exciting developments and initiatives aimed at enhancing the overall transit experience. Welcome, Ali.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ali Sabourin, and I am the Manager of Customer Experience and Innovation with HSR. I'm honored to be here today to share some of the exciting projects our team has been working on this year. Our team's job is to understand customer needs and find ways to improve their experience. Our goal is to make public transit the first choice for people living in or visiting Hamilton. We focus on guiding principles like accessibility, equity, diversity, and inclusion, community engagement, innovation, and delivering on our promises. We're responsible for engaging with our customers. This includes organizing and attending events to inform people about service changes and to listen to their feedback. So far this year, we've been to 115 events and talked with over 14,000 people about topics like fall service enhancements, the Fare Assist program, and customer education programs. We've met people of all ages and abilities at festivals, seniors organizations, schools, Hamilton Public Library locations, recreation centers, and other events. We were happy to attend the Accessibility Fair at Hamilton City Hall on September 4th. This event helps us learn more about the accessibility needs of our customers, especially those who use personal mobility devices. Our partnership with the Accessibility Committee of Persons with Disabilities is very important, and we appreciate the feedback we get from its members. The feedback we get helps us make improvements, and when we hear and include diverse voices, the experience is better for everyone. This year, we are pleased to be launching a new accessibility program, the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Program. The Sunflower Program is a globally recognized program that allows people with non-visible disabilities to signal discreetly that they may need a bit of extra time, support, or understanding while using public transit. Participants can wear a sunflower branded lanyard or wristband to identify that they are part of the program. This is entirely voluntary and gives individuals a subtle way to indicate their needs without having to explain them. Non-visible disabilities include conditions such as autism, anxiety, chronic pain, dementia, hearing or vision loss, epilepsy, learning difficulties, or mental health conditions. These are often not obvious, but can affect how a person navigates public spaces like our transit system. We plan to launch publicly in mid-November, and HSR will be the city's pilot of the Sunflower Program, which will be launched corporate-wide in the future. Until then, we'll be sharing information about the program with our staff and the community. The goal is to build understanding, awareness, and comfort with the symbol, both among the people who may choose to wear it and the staff who will support them. Across Canada, more organizations are adopting the Sunflower program, such as the Hamilton Airport, Air Canada, and transit agencies like Metrolinx and MyWay in Mississauga. There are 3 main reasons HSR is adopting the Sunflower program. First, it's about accessibility. The program helps operators and other staff recognize when someone may need extra time, clear instructions, or seating accommodations. It's especially helpful at boarding, fare payment, or when asking for directions. Second, it helps build awareness. The program reminds all of us, staff and riders alike, that not all disabilities are visible. It encourages small, respectful actions like offering a seat or being patient without needing to know details. And third, it enhances the customer experience. For people with hidden disabilities, knowing that staff understand what the sunflower symbol means can offer comfort and peace of mind. It makes transit feel safer and more inclusive. HSR staff are being trained to recognize the symbol and respond appropriately, whether that means providing more time, help with a Presto machine, or just offering kindness. Sunflower is a simple and respectful way to make transit more accessible and welcoming. Another exciting project is our real-time displays in 2024 and 2025 at 2 locations, James and Jackson, southbound, and Main at John, eastbound. After a successful concept test, the displays have been removed as we get ready for a pilot project in 2026 that we are very hopeful will move forward after budget approval. These displays provide real-time bus arrival information, both visually and with audio. A survey from 138 people showed that 85% of people found the displays improved the overall customer experience. 91% would like to expand the displays to more stops, and 91% of persons with disabilities stated the displays met personal accessibility needs. Finally, our team is also responsible for customer care. You can always reach out to us with feedback, suggestions, or even to recognize a bus driver by emailing hsrserve@hamilton.ca or calling 905-528-4200. If you have any concerns, including issues with enunciators or accessibility, let us know, and we'll do our best to fix them. Be sure to include the bus number, location, direction, date, and time. Thank you.
Thank you, Allie. And thank you to all our panelists for your insightful presentations. We are now going to open up the floor for our question and answer period. If you are participating, just so you know, we are still live streaming. So be aware your questions and the responses will be broadcast and saved on the City of Hamilton YouTube channel. If you prefer to ask a question privately, you can wait until the live stream ends, and then we can address those questions. The live stream will either end when all questions have been addressed or at 7:15, whichever comes first. At this point, I will open up the floor. If you have any questions, you can sort of throw your hand up and I'll bring the mic around.
Testing.
Hi, everybody. Okay, I do have a number of questions. I'd like to get started. And if anybody else has a question, please step in. First up, we mentioned HSR Next. We also mentioned accessible stops. Now, I know a lot of the areas that HSR Next is going to be moving into, for example, like the Stone Church Rimal area. They have a lot of stops that are just basically concrete pads with no sidewalk support to know where to get up onto the stop. The HSR Next is going to be a 7-year plan. Is there a corresponding plan to make sure that those stops are accessible as the routes are created and put in place?
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for your question. Yeah, my team has been working closely with Next Team through the development of that plan, and we've been mapping out basically the 7-year time horizon so that we can be putting in infrastructure where we can in advance of the service being put in, as opposed to trying to catch up. With the caveat of where we can. In some locations, we may not be able to put it right away. But we have been asking, or we have asked in the 2026 budget as well, for a little bit more budget for the next few years to recognize the growth and the importance of putting those stops in advance of the service coming.
Just a follow-up question. For example, like when I mentioned there's just a pad, no support, just grass. Obviously, the city's not going to be able to put sidewalks in there to support it. Is there a plan to maybe put a curb cut next to the end of it to at least make that supportable or usable?
Yeah, absolutely. We had some good lessons learned from Garner Road, and some good takeaways when we put in some of those standalone pads a few years back. But absolutely, they'll come designed with curb depressions on either side.
Thank you.
Pertus.
Hi, I'm a mother of a 35-year-old with autism who's been a DARTS client for over 10 years. Most recently, due to extenuating circumstances, there was a couple of incidences of physical aggression. I am not condoning the behavior. However, it's not uncommon for our most vulnerable adults to have triggers that can cause this physical or verbal aggression. Some having tics. I was told that because my son has a do not leave unattended, that he cannot sit in the front seat, which is a seat that he much prefers and has no issues and behaviors when sitting in that seat. However, if I remove that do not leave unattended to allow him to sit in the front seat, a driver could mistakenly drop him off at a wrong location and leave. It is not, the title's not there for my son because there is no one to receive him at Oath, his daycare or his day program, and home. So this is a driver issue. Some drivers, let's put it this way, do not read their notes and have dropped off clients at wrong addresses, home addresses. As of now, my son is not allowed to drive on the DARTS bus without support, which is impossible. I have to quit my job to transport him, as I am doing now, to and from his programs, as well as using taxi scripts, which are wonderful at a 40% discount. However, 3 books would take me 2 weeks to use up. We're only allowed to purchase 3 in 1 month. His fares are anywhere from $16 to $26 one way because of the having to take taxi. I feel that these DARTS drivers need to be more educated when dealing with our most vulnerable. And they need to be able to be more proactive than reactive, because reactive causes more behaviors. I've had DARTS drivers yell at my son because in a loud voice he told them he was upset and angry, and her response back was, "Well, that's too bad. We have a long ride ahead of us." So I feel that I'm in a position where I'm stuck. I am aging, and hopefully having my son be put into an assisted living facility. And when that does happen, I'm not going to be there to transport him to and from his programs. So I need to know how to get past this point and have my son be allowed to ride on DARTS in the front seat with no support. I do have a lot of suggestions. I don't want to take up any more time, but if anyone would like to speak to me and learn more about some of these suggestions, I'm very happy to do that.
Michelle, would you come up?
Thanks very much for sharing your current situation. And I am happy to speak to anybody today when we close the public portion of the meeting about particular concerns. I will say I recognize that it can be very challenging for families to balance all the needs that have to be met in a day, depending on the disabilities of family members that they are responsible to support. And we try our very hardest to balance thoughtfulness and consideration of that against the need for safe travel and safety of everyone on board. We never say never that a comment can't be amended or removed on a profile. We will work with the family. We will ask for additional information to support as independent a trip as possible, as safely as possible for our customers. I will say drivers are responsible to read the comments on their tablets. At the same time, there's a limited number of characters that we can fit into the space, so the amount of detail we can include is limited. But the comments that are there, they are responsible to read, and I know I can see Liz nodding back there. And so if there is ever an issue where a driver has not read the comments that are reasonable and have been added to the profile to ensure safe pickup or drop-off, please call ATS and log the complaint and let us know. The other thing I want to address is de-escalation. Now, verbal de-escalation. Now, while operators are not responsible to provide behavioral support as such, we do recognize that this skill of verbal de-escalation is an important skill to have. And so early this year, we did get the Accessible Transportation Services Supervisor certified as a nonviolent crisis intervention verbal de-escalation instructor. And she delivered training to key personnel in DARTS management and to all of our ATS team. And the plan is to now get our new supervisor similarly certified and to work with DARTS to broaden access to that training throughout their staff. So I wanted to assure you that this is on our mind and we are working to address that. So again, I thank you very much for your comments, and I'm happy to speak to anybody who has any particular questions about someone they support or for their own trips or complaints or feedback. once we close the public portion of the meeting. Thanks.
Hey, I'm Sean, and I'm from the city of Hamilton, and plus living in the city of Hamilton, of course, and especially I like taking private tracks every day. When I look at transit, I figure the city wanted to keep public safe. I want to keep transit public safe. I've seen everything what's going on with HSR around the whole community, and I have experienced it every time I've seen it on my e-bike or my scooter. I don't tolerate any behavior that's doing with HSR or to think of our community buses. So many bus drivers are giving me the finger. Some are looking at me and like on some disability, and like I have trouble disability with myself, and I like to keep transit public safe, but I don't tolerate HSR and bus drivers to be interfere with me. So that's a goodbye feedback.
For that comment. Okay, I will ask a couple of darts-related questions, one from me, one from someone else. First off, why doesn't darts present their service overview like the other departments do? I'd be interested to hear about the contractors and vehicles on the road. And second, an outside question, is ATS planning to absorb darts and take over paratransit?
Michelle, if you want to come back up for the ATS portion, and then I can bring Liz up afterwards.
Hi, James. Thanks a lot for those questions. The question about the overview or the long-term service planning, that's an interesting one. And it's funny because mostly, as you know, we focus on the key performance indicators that we've always delivered and are bound to deliver to ACPD and to Public Works Committee. But I will take that back to the contractor and to the transit leadership team and think about how we can provide that kind of information as well. I'll let Nancy take the long-term service planning question as Director of Transit. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you for that question, James. We have been talking for a long time about the service that ATS provides, how to best provide it, and different ways of looking at things. So we are currently looking at a plethora of options in how to move forward with ATS. We've recently gathered information from transportation providers to see what services are out there. We know we're working with our own group on building greater on-demand service in the city. So we have a lot of information gathering that we are still working on and to determine how we move forward and to ensure that we are providing an excellent customer experience for persons with disabilities.
A quick follow-up then on the same topic. You mentioned the request for information. I also have a question from somebody. What was the result from that request for information? Are you still reviewing it? Or for the on-demand service you just mentioned?
Thank you, James. I will start, and then I may have Michelle come and fill in some of the blanks. We received, it's just basic information of transportation providers. What kind of vehicles do they have? What kind of software do they have? Are they able to accept various fare payment options? Just to understand what is out in the market and could help us provide a better service. Michelle, did you want to add?
Thanks. I also wanted to add that we have a memo that we're going to have for the ACPD, which then will become public. So it'll be a summary of what we've learned from that market research, and that should be at the next ACPD meeting.
I have a couple of questions. One's just going to be a quick follow-up on that topic. When you were talking about information gathering on the various systems to reform the accessible transability service, were all of those from the private sector, or did you look at any public sector examples between North America or Europe, or were they strictly private sector outings and looking at third-party app generators or gig economy-based or taxi delivery companies? Like, what was your scope of vision when you were casting your net looking for that information?
So the RFI just asked, it cast a pretty broad net. It really was what's available in the market. It was quite general, but the I was definitely accessibility and flexibility in delivery of service. I don't have my detailed notes from the memo that I'm preparing for the ACPD meeting in front of me, but there is more detail in there, and we can speak afterwards because I think I do have them over there in a binder and can give you more information. But really, the point was to engage in market research and see what was available from anybody who had anything to offer or provide.
So I guess therein lies the crux of my question, is you're looking for a market-based solution as opposed to what you may need to reform in your own delivery within your own public sector system. Like, I don't hear a broad analysis of other public sectors who may actually be getting accessible transit service right and recreating their systems with new app-based technologies. I'm hearing a market scan. So
100%. The market scan is just part of it. And certainly we have an eye on what other providers have piloted successfully in their own jurisdictions in terms of apps that they're using or commingling, for example, of paratransit with on-demand transit to improve flexibility of scheduling for individual customers, things like that. We do know there's a lot of information available out there from our peers.
All right. My second question is just I have three, so I'll try and be quick. My second question is, of course, around new shelters, stops, design, implementation, not necessarily around the LRT, because I know Metrolinx is taking a primary lead on those particular stops and station designs, but on your own transit terminals, in terms of their accessibility, in terms of their seating, there tends to be, and has been in the past, a rollout of shelters, of seating, of look at those lovely T's that you bolted to a bunch of bus stops that really do nothing and were facing the wrong way to even see the bus coming if you sat on them, and most people couldn't sit on them, or the lovely L's that were completely unleanable in most transit stations for people with even most basic of mobility challenges, and who weren't maybe my height. So there was a pile of failures that have come up over and over again. So what is going to be your real world testing solutions to go beyond AODA accessibility requirements to actually make these things comfortable and proper for the types of people that are going to be using them on a daily basis? And what's your testing plan for rolling out these new spaces and places, these new stops and shelters? And I'm just going to also ask you to, given the city's new work, throwing a climate lens on that, considering that our cities are getting hotter and especially colder and more rainy and more windy, and that perhaps shelter designs, as you're looking at them in the 2020s, aren't necessarily going to be what they're going to be in the 2030s or 2040s.
Thanks for your question, Carl. It's a lot there. So I'll try to answer what I got to recall what you asked. So first off, on shelters, you may or may not be aware that we replaced the entirety of our shelter stock back in 2017, 18, and 19. That's over 700 shelters. Shelters, on average, have a lifespan of about 12 to 14 years. So those designs that you see out there right now are going to live for a few more years, probably into the 2030s. So I don't see a replacement of those until the early 2030s, probably about 2032, 2033. So at that point,
neighborhoods go through shelters faster than others.
Oh, just take the comment. So at that time, we'll do as we did last time. We'll test the market and see what's available and put out an RFT and see what the market bears. In terms of climate action planning, I'm sure you're aware that this city it's really in its infancy about really digging deep into climate emergency and response to that. In fact, many of us went through a training program just the other day to take a deeper dive into how we quantify that and really plan for it in our project plans. So we're learning as staff and we're evolving as we go along. So I would say future plans will incorporate what we're learning as we go along. In terms of the bench polls, really came from a good place from a staff member, to be honest, in trying to look for a solution for locations where we just didn't have space to put traditional amenities. It wasn't an ill intention of anybody. It was really to try to find a solution. And so we did put out some prototypes to test out, allow customers to give us our feedback. We did meet with Transportation Working Group to get feedback on it. We modified the prototype design to fit the feedback that we got, and then we went forward and expanded to, I think, about 32 locations. We're down to 2 or 3 units left. I've heard comments in the past, people with negative feelings about them, but I've also heard positive comments about people who do appreciate the fact that they have somewhere to sit where they didn't previously. So I think it's a mixed review on those, to be honest. But certainly as we get to the end of that stock, we can take a look at it again, see if it's going to continue on. We did jump in and expand in 32 locations, but it's really kind of died down at this point in time. And we don't have a full-on intention to go broader with that. It was really for specific use cases. And again, we see people using them. We've heard positive comments. We've heard negative comments. So I think it's, in some cases, down to personal abilities, personal preferences. But there are people who do appreciate it as well.
Oh, and I empathize with that and certainly understand that. So just as a correlate to that question, now what it sounds to me, though, is that there perhaps is some missing aspects around engagement when you're making large capital purchases around shelters and around amenities, whether that's engagement with the public. Like you tell me, you're going to look for things and put them out into the tender. But really what you should be having is days where the potential proponents are bringing their products forward, and you're having open days and having riders and people from the various committees at city coming and using these and giving you their feedback on which ones seem to better suit the types of climates and the types of places in Hamilton. So it sounds to me like it's a backwards engagement. You're going out, you're tendering for the stuff, then you're putting them out there, then you're getting the feedback, and then you're kind of rolling that into future purchases. So I would put that forward as a suggestion of this, is to be more accessible, that you may want to be bringing those potential vendors, having them set up their stock if they want the contract, and having people from the community test those things in experiences in a couple of different open days like you've had before with other open transit days, as is just. Anyway, my third question is around the transit terminals that are being planned and coming forward, one as soon as 2026. I know it was supposed to be a little sooner. Those terminals, as they're laid out, especially the LRT ones, but even the one up at Lime Ridge Mall, contain a fairly decent land footprint. And with the land zone for 12 stories, and organizations like my own at City Housing Hamilton always looking for partnerships with other city departments where we can co-create spaces. And a great example, for example, in St. Catharines, where they have their bus terminal underneath and they have most of their civic offices are all above the bus terminal down there. Why you're not looking at including housing along with your terminals as you're constructing them, especially given that you're building them right on key nodes where people would probably want to live in affordable housing. That's my last question. Thank you.
Nick, I don't know if you want to take that because your team is more involved in the planning aspect of those. If I could just address one more comment that you made, I think you had asked about just general stop design. So the one thing that we do on general stop design in terms of I would say, attempting to exceed kind of the basic accessibility standards is really we're trying to put future stops in where we can at a much larger dimension, so that we're not facing kind of what we've been stuck with over the years where we don't have the space availability to provide proper usage of ramps or maneuverability or put amenities, the traditional amenities. So as we are putting in new locations through construction or through our landing pad program, we're trying to put in much larger capacity units, so that we're better placed for kind of the regular stops in the future. So it's it may not seem like much, but if you can put in 2.5 meters by 16 meters, that gives you a lot more options than, if you're stuck with 2.5 meters by 9 meters or even less. So just wanted to address that because you had brought that up as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question on our hubs. I am right there with you. The idea of these hubs are that they are in major destinations across the community. They are great sites to densify. As we worked through HSR Next, we actually started with more hubs that were off-street that would take up a lot of space that could be used for other purposes like housing. And we did revise some of those hubs to keep them on-street to make that space available. In other locations, and it isn't my program to speak too much on, but we are working with the Housing Secretariat and our housing partners to make the space available for affordable housing. There's some really good examples up on Upper Sherman and at Elfrida that we're collaborating to deliver housing. The last thought here, there are some sites that we thought about trying to integrate housing and it is not viable from a zoning or development perspective. A good example of that is Winona, where that site is really dedicated to the hub itself. Hoping that helps answer a bit.
It does. I'll take the rest of the questions I have offline first.
Here's all for
Okay, just follow up on the bus shelters and seating area. The bus shelters, the translucent roofs are in the summertime are not shade providing. I don't know why they were chosen to be that particular color. The only shade you've got at bus stops right at the moment is the pole. You can stand underneath the roof, so you're not type of different shade. But that was just a comment. My question is about the benches that Carl mentioned. One of the things that we had an issue with on the benches early on was the handhold, being able to lower yourself down on the seats. And a decision was made to move the handhold to the front of the bench area in front of the pole, where it was absolutely useless to actually get anybody up or down on, for the purpose of allowing people to rest their back on the pole. So you made a decision to eliminate the accessibility of the seats for the customer experience. I just wanted to highlight this issue. Once Carl mentioned it, I wanted to bring it up. I guess I didn't have a question, but I did have a question, but I've kind of forgotten it by now. I'm sorry. I repeated that.
Hi. First, I want to thank everybody for having this meeting arranged for non-computer people. That's me, and probably others. Anyhow, I use all the wheels that you folks provide in the city for my transportation. The one I use most now is DARTs. I use it 5 days a week and sometimes 6. The one thing that bothers me is that not only are they sometimes more than the 15 minutes, which I always give an extra 15 minutes just because reality, but when I call up after the 15 minutes and I say, when are they coming? She says, well, you're booked for a half an hour from now. I just go crazy. I absolutely go crazy. It happens more than once, or I wouldn't be telling you this. And consequently, I have a date book. I write down what I want. I write down what I get from DARTs. No, we can't do it this time. We'll fix it that. Okay, that's fine. So I had put a big check mark there.
every day that I get my request made on the phone. Then when I call and say, well, it's about 20 minutes since the 15, well, you booked it for this, and I know I didn't. I'll prove it to you for getting to this building. I called a week ago, and I give it 5 to 7 days usually. And I said, I want us to go home for 8. And he said, but he said, I don't think I can. But just a minute, I'll see if I can move something around. And that drove me nuts. And I want you to know that he said this. I don't know who it was. They don't identify themselves anymore like they used to when they answered. And the reason is I end up getting moved by somebody who's in Darts saying, well, we can get this one there because there's 4 other people in the area. But we won't tell this person that we said, yes, that time. And we're sitting there foolishly. Well, we need the drive. But we're not told that they have it transferred us to a half an hour later. That probably is quite okay with many of us, other than a doctor's appointment. And they do get us there on time for every appointment. So that's the big thing with Darts and me. The next mode is the taxis. I buy 3 books. It's just part of my budget. I buy 3 books a month. Have been doing it for many years. It's proved to be wonderful. However, the cab drivers are driving me crazy with their insults about, that's not real money, you know. I don't have to take that. Well, you know, maybe if I wasn't from the Bronx, New York, and an Irishman, they damn well wouldn't hear what they ended up hearing from their boss. Because I called up the cab company. I use one, doesn't matter which one. And I explained this. And I said, this is all on tape. I said, you can check it out in that car. Anyhow, it drove me crazy to the point where I got in touch with a Dodge, no, it was a Dodge ATS. I told them or somebody, I have a letter here that I carry as much as I carry my bus pass or my Presto card or my Golden card now. From ATS dated May 3rd, 23, telling me that I do not have to write down my address, the time I was picked up, and all those other questions other than my code number or my whatever number that's called. Because many of the drivers with the cabs are telling people who are older and more intimidated than me, I don't have to take you next time. So I asked ATS to help me, and I have this letter, and I carry it from all the time. That's why it's so beat up, with the taxi scripts to prove to them that I know what I'm talking about. So the first I got this letter in 23, May. It was written up, and it's signed ATS, your services. And they named my name on the letter. So the first driver that pulled this trick on me after I got the letter, he didn't win at all. I said to him, Mister, I have a letter from ATS saying I don't have to do that. Oh, you do? I said, I sure do. Can I take a picture of it? You sure can. He looks at it, and then he says, oh, I'll leave your name out. Oh, no. You put my name right in your picture. I'll give it to the boss. Oh, I don't care. The boss knows who I am. So sure enough, all that happened. And I got a call from the boss thanking me for letting this guy take a picture of my letter that you guys sent me to say I was right. So consequently, this is absolutely intimidating by the cab drivers. They know it, and every time they try that, the boss gets a letter. Full. Okay, and the third thing is the buses. Now, I've never had trouble with the buses, and by the way, the drivers in all these incidences are very good. Cabs and Darts are wonderful. However, getting on, I now have a walker when I go down to Eastgate or something. I use the cane more locally, but if I need to walk areas, I get but I get a cab or Darts to get me there. So I was so fed up, I said, I've got to be able to get this walker on the bus. I got it on to go downtown Dundas, and when I go to get it off, that's another story. The bus didn't pull up close enough to the curb. Consequently, there was a big space between the cab, and he wasn't going to pull it. He wasn't going to move it. And I said to him, it's pretty far. He just looked at me like, yeah, so what? Anyhow, nobody was out behind me to help me, which people would be waiting to get on the bus. And so I get my leg over to the curb, and then I'm trying to pull the walker off with my left leg on the bus and pulling this thing. I was sure I was going to end up under the bus. I must have had angels with me. There was no accident, but the thing fell in between the bus and the curb. Then I'm yanking it. I'm 85, Anyhow, I yank it, and it ends up coming up, and I was exhausted and shaking. I'm shaking thinking about it now. So I called ATS, and I told them the story. I said, I know they're allowed to open that floor, to the ramp, I guess it is, for people with wheelchairs and baby carriages, but I don't ever see them opening it for the walkers. I said, are they allowed? He said, ma'am, I was a bus driver for years, and now I'm working here. He said, yes, they certainly are. They should be doing it. And I said, well, they make you feel so guilty when you ask them to lower the floor. And he said they shouldn't have that attitude. Well, yeah, fine. Anyhow, so my question to him was, can they? And he said, yes. I've been intimidated enough never to take a bus since, and I didn't take it, even though he tells me I can do this. Because the attitude of some of those bus drivers, I see Dodge drivers trying to make time limits, and the buses are really the same. And I respect their schedules. But in the meantime, if they are supposed to do this, and I'm intimidated by the fact that they might not, they haven't said that because I'm scared to ask them. Anyhow, thank you all for listening, and I'm grateful for all the transportation and the people that have helped me in the past and in the future. And that's all. Thank you.
So we have time for one more question up to 7:15. Perfect.
I want to get your feedback about the bus shelters that I have seen around the city, and I want to ask the feedback, the question right there, the one I got there about your answer questions about the bus shelters. I need some new bus shelters. I see them get smashed. There's homeless people sleeping there. There's graffiti. There's even 2 bus shelters smashed up the mountain just last week, though, and I see it every day on my e-bike or scooter. And I'm saying this is not acceptable for these bus shelters. There need to be new bus shelters. Something needs to be placed. Something needs to be done. And the thing for me, I'm scared taking a bus right now. I'm scared being downtown because somebody might try to hurt me. And I'm trying to grab for a bus last Wednesday, and someone tried to hurt me. Somebody called me with a bad name, and I was running, and I don't feel comfortable taking a bus. But get your feedback. Only thing to do with fix new bus shelters and get the homeless people out of these bus shelters. That's my question feedback. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody, for all your questions. We will still be around, but we are going to be ending the live stream. So we are now concluding the live stream, providing an opportunity for those that wish to ask their questions off air. A heartfelt thank you to our panelists, our interpreters, our subject matter experts, DARTS and HSR, our Cable 14 team, and everyone joining us both here and online. Thank you very much.